Welcome to the On the Edge podcast with your host, Scott Groves.
Hey guys, it's Scott Groves with the On the Edge podcast. I'm a little under the weather, so I won't be smoking today, and I'm just having a Diet Coke and a water because, man, I hope it's not COVID. I don't think it's COVID. I got a negative test a few days ago, but I have just been getting my ass kicked and have not been able to make it Jiu Jitsu. I've been kind of under the weather for a couple of weeks, but I'm bringing in my buddy Jesus from Jiu Jitsu, which is funny because since I'm an asshole and I can't ever remember anybody's name, I actually called Jesus Jose for the first month that I knew him. And he's too much of a nice guy to like punch me in the face and say, no, my name is Jesus, which you'd think I'd be able to remember that. It's kind of a biblical name. But, you know, usually we have older people that have a little bit stronger opinion on things, maybe a little bit more life experience. But I've just been so impressed getting to know Jesus the last year. You're 19, 20?
Yeah, 19.
19. Graduated a couple of years ago, and just his commitment to what's going on in the jiu-jitsu gym, the fact that he has his own podcast called Me Versus Myself, the fact that he's effectively putting in the time on his own to learn all the social media chops so he can then at some point in the future opening a marketing company. I'm just really impressed. And I was like, oh, what better way to find out what's going on with the youth of America than to talk to the youth of America. So thanks for being here. And I see you have your Honest Kids juice box, which is awesome. Apropos. Perfect. So what did I miss in the introduction?
Dude, that's crazy. I don't know. I think you've covered pretty much like a good amount, like a good gist of who I am. It's like, I don't know, jiu-jitsu is like one of like things that I'm really, really passionate about right now. Podcasting is like also something that's really natural to me. And honestly, recently I've just kind of been going towards what feels the most natural, what feels the most like, I guess just fulfilling, you know? It's like, I'm not really, it's like too money hungry. I guess it's just more of fueling me. And eventually through just continuing doing these things that are working right now are going to like propel me later on, you know?
Yeah, that's great. And tell us a little bit about the Me Versus Myself podcast, because when you said, oh, I have a podcast too, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to look it up. And he'll be like every other lazy 19-year-old who did like 2 episodes and then never did another episode. And there's like 70, 80 episodes up?
We're almost at 80. Technically, yeah, we're like 80 now.
80?
80 episodes deep. It's been a year and a half, 2 years in September, which is kind of crazy because when it started, it was like, I didn't really know where I was going with. I had an idea and I had this vision of like me being able to tell my story and that little me versus myself struggle that we all have, that little internal dialogue that we kind of go on that goes on in our head, you know, it like, I guess for everyone it's different, but I wanted to share mine and give some people that know me or people that just my age some sort of comfort in knowing that, hey, like I'm fuck up. Hey, I'm doing this too much, or hey, I'm working on this and I'm going to do this to get to this certain goal, you know? And just by continuing to do it, dude, it's so cool and reaffirming when people tell me, hey, I like your podcast, because it gives me like a good feeling and it makes me know that like I'm okay. Or like people even ask me for advice now. That's like a segment that I do where it's like, hey, any questions, any perspective you'd like to hear? I was like, I'm here to, I mean, I'm nobody, you know, but I'm here to give you an honest, like friend perspective, like a conversation, just straight up, you know, like, okay, I'm dealing with like depression, or I'm dealing with like, I'm trying to lose weight or whatever. And through my life and through my examples of what I've been doing, like, it's like, I'm at a point where people kind of come to me and like, can, I guess like, not like above, because I'm not above anybody, but people can see like what I've been up to and what I've been doing, and find like trust in knowing that I can give them an honest, sincere, like just straight up raw opinion, you know?
Yeah, it's funny what you're mentioning, because I always make fun of like the 22-year-old Instagram life coach, and I'm like, what the fuck does this guy know? Like they don't know anything. But it is interesting. It makes me think. There's a scene in the movie Dirty Dancing, which came out long before you were born. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't, with Patrick Swayze. So there's this scene in Dirty Dancing where he's like the premier dance instructor at this summer camp, and one of the characters said, so how'd you get started? And he's like, well, I was hard up for money, and so I bought like this book on how to dance, and I just had to stay 1 or 2 steps ahead of my students who I was teaching to dance that week. And for some reason that stuck on my head, is like, oh, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be that much better than anybody. You don't have to hold yourself in higher esteem than other people. You just have to be like 1 or 2 steps ahead of them to add some value and teach them some stuff.
Yeah.
So when I saw that you're 19 with like 2 years of podcasting under your belt, I'm like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Like you're a couple of years ahead of a lot of people that are thinking about doing that. So what motivated you to start?
So honestly, like I guess you can say my inspirations, Gary V. He's always been like content, like build a brand, build a platform, like go and like just speak about what it is that you're called to, what it is that, you know, instead of like going and like working a shitty job that you might not be happy at, like really go at something that's you're passionate about. So I mean, those thoughts were always lingering, and I knew for a while that I wanted something like that. I wanted some YouTube. And like, dude, I guess in the age that we grew up, we kind of grew up when YouTube was going like popping off, you know, and it's still in its early stages, but we got to, well, at least in me, I got to watch Call of Duty videos on there. People grow and like play Call of Duty on there. And to me, that was like, dude, that's what I want to be doing. And for a while, that's kind of what my idea was. I was like, I'm going to be like a pro gamer, kind of like esports kind of thing, streamer. And I tried streaming for a bit before podcasting. And it's just, it's, I don't know, I guess it's super hard, and it's like super like long hours of like actually having to play video games. And I guess at a point you get to a point where it's like, yeah, I can play video games all day, but dude, if I'm getting like 2 viewers after 3 hours, like not, I guess it wasn't really worth it for me to keep going.
Yeah.
But Gary Vee, dude, he opened my eyes and was like, dude, go at something that really you're really passionate about. And, you know, it might take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, but like, dude, if you're in it and you're enjoying it, like it's gonna help somebody, you know? And well, yeah, dude, when I first started, like I wouldn't get any views, and now we get a consistent 15 to 20, which is awesome because I know like those 20 people, like I'm actually speaking to someone, you know? And
right.
It's really cool to know that people are paying attention, and people that also like I haven't seen in a while, they'll see me, dude, I listen to your podcast, or they'll message me, let me know like, hey, I like what you're doing. I appreciate like what it is that you're trying to put out. I know that it's 20 right now, but in 5-6 years, like you know, it's bound to grow, you know, it's bound to like open up even more doors as like I've started doing interviews now. Like it's like over time I've been building up like little chapters, I guess, you know, like at first it was like the first 30 episodes was just strictly audio only. It'd just be me talking and reflecting on like my life, or me going about what I'm doing, what I'm working on, like how I wanted to drop out of college. Just like, it was like a journal. It was like really like a video journal. And through sharing those things, like people were like, hey, I like what you're doing. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't really comfortable doing video. So it became like just me speaking. And then after a while, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try fucking adding another layer, another element to it, because maybe that'll increase the exposure. Yeah, dude, it opened up a little bit more. And learning to figure out how to edit and how to like post and break down the thumbnails and all that. It's been a journey, but it's been really cool to know that like moving forward, and eventually as it grows, like also building up a team for it. And it's not just a one-man production show, like whole ass, like, you know, because it's not a hassle, but you know, at times it is kind of like, dude, some of this work is really tedious. But again, like looking into the future, it's like, I know in 6 years, when I can say I have 6 years of podcasting. And not only that, it's like I'm documenting my journey, you know, like I think it's so cool that like my kids might be able to listen to their great grandpa like at 19 talking about their life struggles and what they were going through. And I just like it feels so fulfilling for like, that's just so cool to know that even after I'm dead, or you know, 100 years, 300 years, who knows how long, you know, this will be around, but that it might influence someone then is just like completely, it's super mind-boggling and super cool. And I think that's what kind of keeps me going, you know, like it's, yeah, like I said, it's 20, but for all I know, like just getting that one viewer after I'm dead is like the cherry on top completely, you know, just knowing that someone listened and someone cared to like really like listen to what I was trying to say and put out to the world, you know?
That's awesome. And you know, you mentioned something in there about dropping out of college. And I think a vast majority of the social pressure is, you know, if you're a smart guy like yourself, or even if you're a dumb guy like me, everybody tells you, oh, you got to go to high school, then you got to go to college, then you probably need to get your MBA, then you can get a good job, then you can do this. And, you know, I know you're first generation here in America. I'm sure you have very opinionated parents, like most immigrants. What gave you the courage to be like, hey, in these couple years, I'm not going to do the college thing, but I'm going to grow my own thing, or I'm going to invest in my own, you know, brand, as Gary Vee calls it. Cause I think that's hard for a lot of people to do. You know, I think, you know, I have a son your age and he doesn't love college, but he hasn't really decided that there's something else better out there that he should be doing with his time. And, you know, I'm happy about that. I hope he graduates and does great things, but it's kind of what you're talking about is way against the current socially acceptable narrative.
Oh yeah, dude. Especially like in high school, I always felt like, I mean, I guess just that just comes with being an immigrant, like first generation, you know, like it's never really unconventional. You're kind of like I kind of got a taste of both worlds where at home I'd be like super like to just be speaking Spanish, like immigrant, like grow up and raised how I was. But then at school, I would be around other people that were completely different, completely like they would go home and see a completely different life, you know? And that was, I mean, it's been my all of my life. So I've always seen some like exterior perspective. So I guess that's kind of, I guess, put me ahead where I've had two lenses to look at life through. Um, but like, I guess also just the immigrant hustle, you know, like, I mean, my parents didn't go to school. A lot of my uncles and people that I know that have made it also didn't go to school. So it was always like clear that, I mean, you don't necessarily need to go through the 4 year fucking MBA. Like I can't even explain like what's the steps are because I
Right.
honestly don't know. But
You're like, I'm out. It doesn't matter.
I don't give a fuck. But like, yeah, dude, it was never something like I never fit in. You know, it was always like me trying to like. I felt like I was trying to be like put in a mold, and it was just like no, dude, like that's not what I am. And I think that's kind of what makes me want to just speak my opinions because it's like I feel like it's so like unconventional sometimes, but it's like it's just very valuable, I guess, to hear someone just doing their thing, like going against off the cuff, you know. And definitely, I guess I owe it to like just seeing those things, you know, seeing those things as growing up, like seeing your parents hustling. And although it's like it's not like I guess success is measured differently, you know, but my idea for success was ultimately being happy and then being able to go and visit the town where I'm from and seeing people like current day, you know, living a simple life that is just so different than anything here. Anything that I like, all of my struggles here like don't even exist, or some of my problems here like wouldn't even make sense if I were to explain the fact that I'm upset about certain things, you know. And I guess it's just been chasing my sort of happiness, you know, what feels me, what at the end of the day like I go home and feel like glad about, you know, like. And it's not just to please anyone, you know, like I don't know. I guess growing up too, there was some fuck ups where I like, for example, I didn't graduate like on stage in middle school, and that's because I failed English because my friend had told me, "Hey, like I saw the grades, dude. You got to see, like you're good." So past like the last 3 weeks of the semester, I was just like, okay, whatever, we got to see, like I'm good, and I ended up not graduating, and like that little struggle, dude, and like seeing my parents be really upset about it, and like I guess it was just a really really big fuck up early that after that was like, well, I still moved on to ninth grade, dude. I still went to high school with the same people I was in school with. And like, even, I guess that was just kind of like in the back of my mind, it was like, okay, I need to graduate high school. But it was just like a really big L in the beginning of like my
Right.
career that, I mean, it doesn't really matter. Like it's just middle school, but like at the moment it was like a super like big thing to like, I guess to my parents, and just like I guess the impression was like I guess like being seen as like a fuck up, you can kind of say, you know.
Mhm.
And just as a kid, I always felt like I was trying to be molded a certain way where it was just like do productive things. And partly because like, well, my dad's a musician, so my brother's also a musician, and that's like that was his thing, you know, like that he was introduced to that and he like ran with it, and to this day he still continues to do that. But as I was growing up, it was kind of like follow that, you know, be productive. You can say be a musician, be like play music because that's what's productive. Or like even in high school, I did a year of marching band and I played trumpet. As it was like be like your brother, you know, and it's like go and do something productive. But it was always like at the back of my mind, I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. And I guess just always listening to that little voice of little like it was just like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And then eventually just going through my own little like life struggles and stuff, that when it came to like the senior year where the counselors at school are like, hey, you need to get these certain grades up because the university UCs aren't going to look at your fucking transcripts or whatever. And at the time I was like, bro, I don't even care, you know, like I'm not even worried about, I guess, my degree necessarily,
Right.
or where I'm going to go to school from. Like for all I knew, I had an idea it was either going to Mission College or I was going to go to COC because it was
Right.
just like, I mean, what, community college, I guess, and figure it out then. But I think when you just kind of follow what you think you're like called to, and even if it's like, for example, like when I did a semester in college and I didn't take any general eds, which is like what you need to do to get your I guess there's certain steps in place, you know,
Right.
there's certain steps where you need to get a certain amount of credits to then be able to start working on your degree or whatever. And I was like, dude, I'm not going into this like kind of thinking about doing math, thinking about fucking, you know, having to read chapter and write a fucking 15-page thesis on this. That's just not my plan. You know, that wasn't my plan. So it's like, I know that there's people currently that are in that kind of process of trying to figure out what they want to do. But for me, it was like, I'm not going to find it like going and doing a 15-page thesis. And like, I don't know, I've always been kind of entrepreneurial too, where like Gary Vee was like super eye-opening, where it was just like, hey, like you can do it other ways, you know, you can do it building a brand, you can do it doing a podcast, a YouTube channel, a radio show or whatever. And it really stuck with me, you know, like being able to share my opinion and have it resonate with people has just been like super cool.
That's great. And I think people might hear that like, you know, didn't graduate junior high and had to catch up, and then not really passionate about high school or college or whatever, you know, only stuck with marching band for a year. I think people would hear that and maybe equate that inappropriately with being lazy. But I also know from knowing you, like lazy is like the farthest thing from a word I would use to describe you, you know, like your work ethic, your hustle. You were telling me about how you're like buying vintage t-shirts, which are funny because you call them vintage. I call them when I was a kid, and reselling them and waiting in line for shoes to resell them and kind of just making money however you can while you try to figure out this online persona and the marketing. And so where do you think it is, or why do you think it is that you can simultaneously be like, hey, that's not for me, I'm going to try it quick and quit it quick, but you're also not lazy? Because I feel like people that quit stuff quickly, there's also like a tendency to like, well, they're just really lazy, they don't want to stick with it. But I don't get that feeling about you at all.
I guess you can call it lazy, but I think it's like when you know something's not for you, like at a certain point you might be wasting time, I feel, you know. Like, for example, maybe I would have, like, it's not that I didn't enjoy marching band. I just knew it wasn't for me, you know? I knew that I could stick with it. I knew that I knew what it took to become good at, and like anything else, you know? But it's not something like, for example, with jiu-jitsu, where it's like, I found this thing and it's like, I want to get better progressively. And it's not that it's like lazy. It's just a matter of finding what it is that you really want to be working towards, you know? But it's like, I guess you can call it lazy if I don't want to be a musician and I don't want to go through that discipline. But it's like it's so easy it comes so natural to me to do it in jiu-jitsu, where it's like in kickboxing or whatever, where it's like something that I'm constantly thinking about, and I'm just trying to like chip away at it because it's like something that's genuinely bringing me something that maybe I guess people don't see as like as productive, maybe as being a high class musician. But to me, it's like, I don't know, you know, like I want to fucking fight, dude. I want to do that.
So what do you think the next couple of years look like? You know, you're 2 years out of high school, which I can't even believe I have a friend that's only 2 years out of high school, considering I'm 24 years out of high school. I've been out of high school longer than you've been alive. That's so weird.
That's fucking crazy.
Significantly. And I have a son that's a little bit older than you. But what do you think the next couple of years look like? Like, where do you double down on efforts? What's the plan?
For sure, the podcast is like one thing super like, so the things that are working for me right now is jiu-jitsu, podcasting, and like dabbling into like the marketing aspect of things. So this year I told myself that I'd call it the year of learning, and I've been reading, like I listen to audiobooks. Like I kind of stopped, I fell off the horse like this past couple of months, but like and I'm reading like an audiobook a week versus like back then it just wasn't something I did, you know. I wouldn't read books at school. It was just kind of like, fuck that, you know.
Right.
But as you really realize, like that's where all the tools are, you know. That's where people have already laid out their life, and you can really go ahead and learn shit from them. So I've called it the year of learning. I've been learning how to just, I guess, how to improve my mindset more. I've invested in like courses and stuff too. I think that's one of the things, back to like what you were talking about, like not knowing that I didn't want to do college. So in high school, senior year, I bought a marketing course, like a social media marketing course. And that was like my first kind of like taste of like actual like entrepreneurship, you know, like someone actually doing and running a business and like having a course for it. And there was like a mindset segment, there was like a sales segment, and like a whole service delivery aspect of it. But senior year, that was like a super eye-opening thing, because I already knew that's not like, I didn't want to go through the conventional route. So buying and like having the like being able to invest into myself into something I thought was like gonna work for me really opened my eyes like and changed my perspective. Like it just like maybe put me from being like a year, maybe like just in my head ahead, like from like 5 years, just because I learned from someone that was already doing it, you know?
Yeah.
And well, this year too, I invested in another course and just I've been really trying to make it like the year of learning, you know, trying to learn the most about just anything, you know, really is it like I have a whole bunch of books that I've bought that I want to double down and like read textbooks. I'd like to learn sign language. Just I think that's a fucking super cool thing to be able to one day. I don't know. Maybe my whole life goes by and I don't get to ever speak it with anyone. But if I can know that one day, like I spoke to someone who couldn't speak with signs, I think that's awesome.
That's awesome.
So marketing, jiu-jitsu, and podcasting. That's what the next couple of years look like.
Yeah, I love the idea of the year of learning. It's funny because a lot of my friends in college, you know, they went to USC or whatnot. They did a semester or a year study abroad, which is really just an excuse to go to like Spain and drink your ass off for a year, go to Italy and party for a year. And that's considered like, oh, super enlightened. And, you know, it's part of the path of growing up and whatnot. But then I think a lot of people would criticize what you just said of like, hey, I'm just taking a year off to learn, man. Like, I don't have any expenses. I don't have a family yet. I'm just going to read a bunch of books, take a bunch of online courses, try some stuff, go clean up the gym for free so you can work out for free,
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
whatever. Like, why not?
Yeah, honestly, that's where I think that's put me ahead, bro. Like, where it's like, dude, it costs so little to get into certain things, you know. And sometimes you can limit yourself by saying, "Oh, I can't afford this," or "Fuck, like it's not in my I guess in my reach," you know. But it's really just perspective, you know. Like, well, how much are you willing to give up to get X thing back, you know? And well, just I guess like the immigrant, you know, being able to know that like I have nothing to lose, you know, like dude, I train for free. I train jujitsu. I've been training for a year for free, and what I've put into it versus like what I've been getting out for it is like, no, it's like second to none. Like how much value I've got from being able to just know that, like, hey, like, okay, like instead of having to pay for it, there's another way that buys me like more time. I like this for me, you know. And again, this is really unconventional and like really like I guess different, but at the end of the day, bro, like if I were to die within like the next 2 years, like I'm a happy man, you know? And I know that eventually this is going to lead me to where I want to get to, where in 10 years now I have a black belt and I'm no longer having to do it for free. You know, I have my own fucking, you know, maybe I can even have my own studio or something for like in the future. But it's just like these little seeds, you know, like that's like, dude, it doesn't cost much to like, if I guess for me, like the way I see it is like, I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have a girlfriend anymore. Like it's just
Perfect. They're just a distraction.
It's
Man.
all for me, dude. It's literally all for me. All my time is for me. And I have nobody to call, like to report to or anything like that, you know? And I know that the next couple of years is just being just a little bit more financially independent, which these things like podcasting, marketing are gonna give me, you know?
Yeah. And give me the rundown, because I know you are making some money right now. What are some interesting hustles or what does that resale market look like? Because I know you're making some cash there because you still got, you know, you still got expenses. But what does that look like now? Because the only thing I know about is what I've seen on these Gary Vee videos, you know, like go to a swap or go to a yard sale, find something, resell it on eBay. But apparently it's a lot more complicated than that.
It's okay. I'm gonna be honest. I haven't been like reselling recently.
Okay.
So I've been out of I've been out of the game for maybe like a year now. But like while you're in it, dude, like at least during like high school, that was basically my part time where like I'd check my eBay and like in the past 90 days it'd be like $1,000, $2,000 made from just flipping shit, like buying and going to thrift stores. And I mean, I've always been really minimal, so all of my clothes and all that stuff is like it just comes so natural to me to like go and like buy secondhand. So when I realized that like, oh shit, like you can go out and like keep doing that and make money from it too. And not only like do I get to wear, for example, this shirt, like it's, I guess you'd call it vintage because it's 2002. But like
I feel so old right now.
The more vintage stuff is actually like this like 80s, 90s stuff, but this is still considered vintage to like people, you know? So like it was just so cool that it was just like this little niche that like, okay, not only will I get to wear this like really one of a kind shirt, and I can go ahead and sell it later on for like $20 or whatever. And I bought it for $5, you know, and I wore it for a year and a half. And it's just like, I don't know. That's just something so like I haven't been like flipping recently or like going around like your garage sales and stuff. But there's a lot of you can make like way more than the part time job and like less hours completely. You know, like and just working for you. You know, figuring out how you can go about like just figuring out what you need. You know, how much you need and honestly, like you don't really need much more than like what's gonna make you happy. You know. And I mean, I know maybe I might that perspective might change as I grow up and as I want to do more things. But for like the life that I live right now, it's like I don't really need that much right now, and I'm okay with like the little bit that I'm making with like just my side hustles, I guess, or like even like other things that I do, like help my parents out, and like there's like some back end there, you know. But yeah, as far as flipping, dude, there's people still at it right now, dude, and it's crazy because like my brother's the one who put me on to all this stuff, and like he saw another layer of like the flipping game that was like, dude, people like with their computers like having like bots and shit, like people like I guess people spamming and spoofing their location to get like some shoe release in Paris, and like it's so like so crazy how deep it goes.
Shoes are the big one, right? Like people will buy a couple $100 pair of shoes online, and if they get one of the limited editions, they can make an immediate huge return. Am I making this up in my head?
No. Yeah, that's how it works, dude. Like people, I guess it's just supply and demand. You know, people want to feel fucking superior because they have a fucking pair of Jordan ones, and I mean, I guess it's cool. I guess you can see it as art. A lot of people see it as that, you know, which is why it brings that kind of thing, like where it's like there's like some sort of like status to it, because again, it kind of is art in a sense. And when there's like 20 pairs made, for example, say in LA, if you're one of those 20 out of like fucking thousands or however many people live here, like it's a pretty cool feeling, I guess, you know, like but yeah, dude, it's a really crazy, dude. There's some crazy stories. We met this really cool guy who opened up so many cool doors for us. Like when we were reselling, dude, we would get food for free because like Uber Eats deals were like it's a whole like little like dark black market, you can kind of say, where people are like actively just figuring out how to like finesse or figuring out how to kind of make it, you know, just online.
So wait, you got free Uber Eats because they had you standing in line somewhere for stuff?
No. So dude, I don't know if I can say this, or I don't care, you know, I don't care, sue me. But dude, so there was like this code where you could get like free $10 or whatever. It was like a $10 code that every time you made a new account. And these guys figured out how to make accounts like basically just make a new account and be able to use that coupon every time they wanted to eat.
There you go.
So say you wanted to eat something, you would make an account for you. You'd make an account for, and you wanted to get something else that was like $10. You'd make another account, and then you would buy, say, a McDonald's. You'd buy like a Big Mac. Say, and a Big Mac and fries is $10, for example. You make another account, and you get another $10 to spend there. So you get your fries, or you get your shake, or whatever else you wanted to get. And just people found out how to fucking scam it, I guess, and make fake accounts, and we ate good for a couple months, dude.
This reminds me of like the credit card hacking, like the people that like, well, I open this credit card to transfer this balance over here, so I get these points, and then I call and I make this complaint, so I get this, and it's the same thing. It's all just a hustle.
It's a hustle, bro. And like I guess like since it's like on all of our things like online now, it was like people still didn't know where they were fucking up. So like it took Uber Eats or whatever to like a cool minute to figure out, oh shit, like we're giving up a bunch of money, you know?
I have no problem with anybody taking money away from Uber or Lyft because they're pissing me off these days. So how far into the year of learning are you? Because I know you've got a couple goals, a couple challenges you're doing with yourself.
So I want to say I've listened to maybe like 20 audiobooks. I haven't like actually gone through and like counted all of them. Mm-hmm. But it's probably been a good 20, 25.
And how many months into this like year of learning are you? 4 months, 6 months?
July. It started in the
so started at the beginning of the year.
At the beginning of the year. That's like what I called it, you know? Dude, at the beginning of the year, my hand was still broken. It was still broken. It was broken up until March. So in like 6 months in, the challenge that I'm doing right now is the 100 days giving up THC. I was an avid fucking weed smoker, like, and I guess I can say I was a pothead. You know, that's like what you call yourself. when you're when you're an addict or whatever. I was a pothead, and I guess that just kind of comes from like the environment, I guess, at school and like the friends I was with and all that. I mean, no one had a gun pointed to my head and told me to do this, but
Right.
it was like something that was just kind of there, and I guess like I kind of developed as a habit, and moving forward, I was seeing it as something that was kind of distracting me rather than like helping me. And it just kind of became something that I was starting to depend on, whether I was going to train, whether I was going to the fucking store. It just kind of became something that I was routinely doing. And Joe Rogan, the Sober October thing, I was like the first eye-opening thing where, I mean, like it was cool to know that people were like, well, there was this one year where I just did it because I was listening to a bunch of Joe Rogan. And well, I joined them on the challenge. And I still went out with my friends. I still went out with my cousins, and they were still partaking. But me being on the outside was kind of like, I don't really need this to like feel good around you guys, or like fucking have to carry this whole like, I guess, little demon with me, everywhere I went. So that was really cool. And that was like the first kind of like eye-opening thing that was just like, hey, like I don't need it so much. And it only like becomes a habit like as I allow it to. And I took the month off. And then the next year I took 75 days off because it was just like, all right, I need a break. And also like after that, I felt really great. I felt really good, but it happened to like the 75 cutoff day was on my birthday. So literally like midnight.
Relapse.
It was like midnight, so it was just like birthday boy, let's go out and hang out. And I kind of fell back into the cycle of like using it all the time and like just having it always there and allowing myself to just whatever, enjoy it. But it was just like, okay, I can't let myself one up. I can't let the past me like one up me this year. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and do 100 days.
So you're on 100 days. How many days are you in?
38.
And so this is no smoking, no vaping, no edibles, no THC.
Honestly, it's more just THC.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't really have a problem with like drinking or anything like that. Doesn't really, it was more like THC. I've been consuming other things, I've been having fun still, but yeah, it hasn't really been, it's just more THC.
Yeah. It's interesting because this is where like my, parental instinct versus like my libertarian instinct, my mind is whatever, if you're an adult, whatever you want to do with your body, go for it and take whatever you want. You want to be mainlining heroin? I'd appreciate you don't do it in my podcast studio or in front of my kids, but whatever. But then like the parent in me and like, being a little older and seeing a lot of my friends, like does affect people. I've seen people that probably had a lot more potential and it suffered because of how much fucking weed they smoked. I can just tell you run into them a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, it changed their brain chemistry and they're just different people. So, I mean, because weed's now legal in California, is very socially acceptable. And you mentioned, maybe smoking with friends or family or whatever, like what percentage of your friends do you think are like daily users?
Honestly, a good like I've kind of distanced myself from certain people, but there's like people that I like in high school with, like I'm pretty sure are still the same,
Yeah.
Still constantly at it. So I want to say a good 50,
Yeah.
50%, because of the people that I'm with now, it's like not so much, that crowd anymore.
Right.
But dude, yeah, it's pretty easy to like get caught up in that kind of like I'm being productive still. And that's kind of a lie I would tell myself too, where it was just like I'd smoke and I still get my shit done. That's like one of like the big lies that a lot of my old friends say. And I mean, to each their own, but
yeah.
You can tell, you can kind of tell that like they're dependent on it. And it's clear when you like offer them or when you just tell them I'm doing 30 days off. They're like, 30 days, like that's crazy,
Right.
And it's like, bro, how the fuck is that crazy? How is that like, it shouldn't be like such a big thing to do, and like,
right.
I guess it's like, you don't really, I guess you just never really talked about like weed addiction. Cause I guess it's not like you don't really physically withdraw from it, but yeah, dude, like I know there's a lot of people that lie to themselves. And I mean, I'm not judging anyone. I'm not like on this moral, like high, like, I'm not better than anyone cause I'm giving it up for 100 days. Like I'm probably still going to like smoke occasionally or go back. But I know that if I make it a habit daily, it's going to be a habit, it's going to be constantly something that I need to keep fueling. But yeah, a lot of people don't give themselves that chance to really go through even just 30, even like a week, I feel like that's hard for some people. And that's just like, like I don't want to say you have a problem, but
Yeah.
there's something there that you might need to address. And a lot of people just aren't ready to really face that. A lot of people just like confront themselves because it's so much easier to just continue. Because I mean, for me back in the day, it would be like a good day, or like the cherry on top of my day would be a joint, for example, say. And it's like, dude, I don't need my fulfillment to come from that. I don't need my fulfillment to come from a joint. I'd rather it be from like a really hard training session, or a really hard like editing session of my podcast, or, like a really cool interview that I had. And like I said, I'm not opposed to it, or I'm not like judging anyone that still does or is in this cycle. But for me, it was like, it was cool to have those like 2 little breaks where I stepped out of it. And it was just like, dude, I'm okay. Like, I don't need this as much as I was telling myself I did. And not until you kind of look out from your daily like patterns that you're able to like really realize like, hey, I don't need this so much. It's more of like the weed needs me. And yeah, I think people need to confront that. People need to really think about why they do it, and not so much just like because it makes them feel good, because there was times where, like, I'm not gonna lie, it does make you like forget a lot of the things that might be bothering you, and it might like numb you. There's like a band-aid, but it's not until you really, really dig deep and you're really like, hey, like, why am I just fucking continuing to do this? Like, let me give myself a break. And then like now, for example, how I feel now, it's like I feel really free. Like the first couple of days, and don't get me wrong, that's like, it's really hard. And it's like, I mean, it's like your habits, like,
Right.
Just like with anything, like if you're drinking a cup of coffee every day or whatever it is, like
Impossible to stop drinking caffeine. I can say from experience.
So it's like, it's like, it's just not, and it's especially because it's socially accepted, it's like everyone's kind of numb to it. And the community of like being a stoner is like, it's really celebrated to smoke weed every day, it's like, do your thing. Like, and I don't know, like being able to step back out of that and being able to like, I guess, look at myself from like an outside kind of viewpoint gave me like so much like just clarity, clarity.
Yeah. I was blown away at how much the world has changed. I was flying back from Chicago yesterday, and I landed. I was waiting for a friend to pick me up, and as I was standing there, like on the curb at LAX, a lot of people waiting. There was a couple sheriffs there, that like push people along when they're waiting too long. Right in front of the sheriff, car pulls up. Driver's like just blaring some crazy music. Passenger gets out to hug the person that they're picking up from the airport. He's got a plate of drugs, a pipe, a bag of weed. I think there was some other stuff on there. Literally balancing in one hand, shakes his buddies, or gives his buddy a hug, gets in the back seat, and then they just start lighting up. Right, and there's like 3 sheriffs right there at LAX, and I'm like, holy fuck, the world has changed. Because like that's just normal social behavior. And again, I'm really trying not to judge, but I'm also judging because I look at those 3 guys and I'm like, hey, that's cool. I get it. Maybe you're reuniting with a friend. But if that's your comfort level, you're probably a daily smoker. You're probably doing some other stuff other than weed based on what I saw on the tray. And I'm like, are those guys really productive members of society? And it's like, I'm trying really hard not to judge, but I'm also judging because it's just weird, man. And I can't think it's a hugely positive thing.
Yeah, it's like there's a point where it's kind of like where it can help, don't get me wrong. Like there is like there's a need for it. And I'd rather it be legal than illegal,
Me too.
But like sometimes you need to really just like confront certain things, whether it's like food, whether it's like drinking, whether it's any other vice, you kind of have to question like, why do I do these certain things, or why am I constantly in these patterns, And a lot of people just don't really get to experience those things, like just don't get like that exterior view of themselves. And I mean, I've had a couple of like psychedelic experiences that have helped me and shown me kind of those things, where it's like, hey, like you don't need so much of anything, like just be present, just be here. And I think that's one thing that I'm kind of an advocate for. I think everyone should kind of have a psychedelic experience under the right circumstances, under the right influences, and around, the right environment and stuff. But like as it's becoming like more criminalized and all that stuff, like there's a need for it, there definitely is. And I know that a lot of my growth kind of came from those experiences, where at the time it was recreational, but also it's like, it's only to a point where it's like, I'm starting to depend on it, where it's like even going to fucking 6 a.m. jiu-jitsu, it was like, oh yeah, I got to smoke. I got to smoke. And dude, it's just crazy because it's like fucking 5:50 something in the morning, dude. And it's like, dude, here I am like itching away, like fuck, I didn't smoke. Like, or it's just like I would catch myself just in like, dude, like, you know how fucking that it's just stupid, you know, just enjoy right now. But when you're caught in that, like, it just kind of like doesn't, you know, it's just not something you want to confront.
Yeah. I remember there was a guy, and I won't use his name. There was a guy who I was in the army with, and he was in charge of giving all the soldiers the piss test when we had a drug test. And so he could very easily just take his out and throw it away. And he was a massive pothead. And I remember one time talking to him, and you know, this is in the army when it's still illegal. This is 20 something years ago when it was still socially very unacceptable, especially if you're in the military. And I remember him trying to convince me that he wasn't an addict. He's like, yeah, man, like, you know, I only smoke weed to like start my day because my ankles kind of hurt. And, you know, we're going to do a 5-mile run every morning. And, you know, I smoke weed when I go to Walmart because it's so boring and I hate going with my wife. And then, you know, I smoke weed when I like do the laundry because like it's boring and it's just, it's nice to numb yourself out where you're folding laundry. And then like I like to smoke when I go to the movies because, you know, it makes the movie. I'm like, so basically you smoke for every fucking thing you do in life. Like you're an addict, bro. Quit. Like I'm not, again, not judging, but like let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember he was the most liked guy in our unit because if you got called for a piss test and you knew you were gonna fail, you could go say, hey, Sergeant so-and-so, I'd really like pee bottle number 374 to disappear on the way down to the hospital. And he would usually hook it up so that you didn't get in trouble.
That's awesome.
Because it's really weird, man. You would go out in the morning and there'd be like a couple hundred people lined up, and the first sergeant who's in charge of like the barracks, he would just take a hat off and he would pick out like 2 numbers out of a hat, 0 to 9. And if your social security number ended in that number, you had to go take a pee test.
Oh shit.
And so it was like, you just never knew when it was coming. And then some of the guys, I've never really been into drugs. I smoked too many cigars, but I remember all my friends freaking out. They're like, oh, I got to find Sergeant so-and-so. Like that shit's got to disappear. I'm in big fucking trouble. And I'm like, ooh, yeah, you're sweating balls, man. Should have done that this weekend.
Yeah. Dude, like that, I guess that I take that with me too, because there was a point in my hothead career, you can say, you know, like I call it that because I feel like I'm kind of detached from that. But yeah, dude, when an album would come out, for example, I need to listen to this high. We need to go get a joint and go somewhere to listen to this album because it's gonna make it sound better. And I mean, maybe it fucking did, I don't know, but it's just like, dude, it's kind of, you kind of lie to yourself, you know. It's like that little addict brain where it's like, I'm not addicted. I only need it for certain so and so.
Right.
But yeah, dude, there's certainly a problem there where some people just don't face it. And I've seen it with some of my friends and like other certain things where it's like, dude, like give yourself 30 days, you know, try just that. But it's just so hard to change people, you know, and you can't really save everybody. Yeah. So it's like there's nothing.
And look, everybody has their things. I got friends that are addicted to being unfaithful. I got friends that are addicted to food. You know, the other night I was in Chicago. I wasn't feeling good. I had a little bit of a respiratory problem. So who knows? I don't think it's COVID, but maybe. And I decided like a good plan would be to smoke a cigar. And I was sitting there smoking a cigar and I'm like, you know, if I have like a respiratory attack, because I do have COVID, and I end up at the hospital and I smell like cigars, I'm going to look like the biggest fucking idiot that I'm so addicted to nicotine and cigars that I was smoking while not feeling good. So I just told myself like on Monday night or Tuesday night, whatever that was, I'm like, I'm not going to smoke for a couple of weeks. Let this all clear up, see what's going on. And like every day I'm like itching for a cigar. I really wanted to smoke one today when we were doing this podcast, but I'm like, I'm not feeling good. You're not smoking anything for 100 days. So I could be strong. But it's crazy how addictive any substance can be.
Yeah. As soon as you like just open, you know, just kind of drop your guard down and let it be, like it is kind of like, just becomes okay, you know. Your brain, like you give it the green light once, and after a while it's like, yo, why can't we keep going? Like what so what happened? And I've seen it too, because well, like I gave up weed, but like I'll hit a vape occasionally just because I guess the sensation, you can say, it is kind of like, I guess that's probably like why people enjoy cigars, you know. You get that whole like the whole experience, you know. And well, I've kind of found like other ways, and I'm not like depending on anything else, you know, but like occasionally like I'll go to a show or something, like, and it's there, it's like I'm just in the moment, you know, kind of thing. And then sometimes I'll catch myself like, oh, I'm going to a show, so maybe I'll be able to smoke or something, you know. And that's just kind of how I guess our brains work, you know. Like,
right.
We give it something good, and it's like, hey, like let's keep going.
So I didn't have a strong opinion about vaping, and I don't think I can say too much about this, but a friend of mine's spouse is an attorney at a very big law firm who has a class action lawsuit going against a huge vape company, and the trial's still pending, so I can't really say much. And I probably overheard some stuff when I was at their house. She was on a Zoom meeting that I wasn't supposed to hear, but the amount of stuff that they found during the legal discovery of how much these vape companies knew that they were like addicting kids with the fruity flavors and the damage to the lungs and the like unscientific stuff that they were putting behind, like this is totally safe, whatnot. Like, it's really fucked up. And it moved me from like, oh, I'm totally like kind of agnostic about vaping or I have no opinions, like these motherfuckers are trying to kill everybody under 25, so please don't vape, it's real bad for you. And I think after this class action lawsuit is settled, a lot of stuff's going to come out that people are like, oh dude, I should not vape, this is real bad for me. So please don't vape, I don't want you to die. So I'm interested in your friend group, because I kind of want to get the mindset of like what the current 18, 19, 20, 21 year old in 2021 is thinking. So, you were born after 9/11, right?
I was born 3 days after 9/11.
That's so crazy that's like not even in your consciousness of like a thing.
I was born 3 days after.
Holy shit. So I'm interested in your friend group, like as you're growing up, you know, we're probably already 5-6 years into the war. We have some crazy political times with Obama and then Trump and whatnot. Like, I'm interested in what your friends, you know, here in LA, we probably bias a little bit more liberal, left wing. Like, what is your friend group? Do they care about politics? Are they fighting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, whatever the fuck you kids are on? Are they fighting about politics? Do they not care? Is this just like an old man thing where you guys laugh at all your parents for even talking about it? Like, what's the mindset of people your age around politics and stuff?
It's kind of weird, dude. A lot of people feel like, I guess, like there's people that do care, definitely, and I feel like because social media, like you kind of get like there's a place for people to have a moral high ground over certain people because you support this thing or you're for this or against this or you support this person, and there is that sort of like, I guess you can say, like that group of people that are progressive, but also it's kind of like not progressive. It's kind of like obey what we want, and you're not obeying what we want, you're wrong or whatever.
Yeah, we want you to have a total open mind as long as you agree with exactly what we tell you to agree with.
Yeah, dude, that's a lot of people my age, dude. A lot of people, and especially because, like, I guess, well, like last year was the election year, and like everyone has a platform now to post something or say something or fucking pretend you're about this thing because all it takes is you reposting it on your story. Right. And that's a lot of like the bullshit, and especially with COVID. Oh my God, don't get me started there. But a lot of people feel like there's like definitely people that are really political because of like social media, and I guess that's kind of how the algorithms work, you know, where it's like they kind of want everyone against everyone. But yeah, a lot of people are really like, I guess, caught up with, like, for example, COVID, like all those vaccination stuff and all this, and if you're not vaccinated, you're that, and if you don't support that, you're a conspiracy theorist or blah 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 blah. So I feel like it's like cancel culture, you know. I feel like my people my age are kind of in that sense of like, have an open mind, but if you're not following what we want, like you're wrong or you're this or you're that.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because you're probably, you know, like my son, you two are in the generation of like the first generation that grew up with cell phones at the earliest possible age. Social media has just been around since day one for you. So like, do you find social media to be kind of like a net positive where it's like, oh, it's super cool, I'm able to keep in touch with, you know, people from junior high or this summer camp that I would have completely lost touch with? You know, I think of all the cool people I met at like summer camp when I was a Boy Scout in junior high and high school that just no way I'm ever going to track them down and have a good conversation. Or do you think it's a net negative because of all the infighting and the virtue signaling and the cancel culture and all that stuff you mentioned?
I think it's really negative. Like, I think it's cool that you can meet people and I can see people from middle school and what they're up to. But also it's like really artificial, you know? Like, yes, I can talk to Johnny from fucking 6th grade and I can see what he's doing. I can see he smokes weed now. I can see he's partying. I can see he's doing this and that. But like, it's kind of artificial, you know? It's like, I'm not really, like we're watching each other grow up, but it's like, we're not really connecting, I guess. And I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a place for it where you can genuinely connect with people. Like, for example, one thing, for example, for me, dude, that kind of like, I haven't found a lot of my friends from elementary. Like, I don't know what happened where it's like Instagram kind of became a thing for us in middle school. And there was like maybe 5 people that I went to the elementary school with that I think were really, really cool people that, again, I have no clue where they're at.
Yeah.
And what happened to them. But like, yeah, dude, like, for example, in like middle school, people that I went to middle school with, like, I still follow me, but we haven't even spoken. We've just followed each other for fucking 4 years, 5, 6 years, however long it's been.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of negatives from it. Like, for example, just the attention span that you fucking, your shit just gets fucked, you know? Like,
oh, dude, I'm the worst, man. I'm like trying to be present with my kids and I'm just like scrolling. And then my wife's like, hey, man, can you turn that shit off? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'm like a little crackhead where I'm like, I wonder what the newest update is. I wonder if anybody texted me. I wonder if anybody telegrammed me. Do I have an email? Do I have a work email? Do I have a Facebook notification? It's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I can feel it in my brain. It's rewired my brain. And it's funny, I just got back from this dad's retreat. And one of the things that I was working on before you got here is an updated schedule where I can take a full day every week off of social media. Probably gonna have to be Saturday, but it's like, I need like, like the Jews do, where they do, like, if you're a Hasidic Jew, I think that's Hasidic Jew, you don't have any like technology from, sundown on Friday till sunup on Sunday. I guess, I don't know. You're gonna have to look this up. Is it Hasidic Jew, kosher Jew? I don't know what the term is. If you're actually observant of the Shabbat, I think it's called the day off. Anyway, I love that. Like, I wish I was raised Jewish because it would give me like a built-in buffer of like, hey man, just like no technology, no TV, no phone, no social media. Like I need that because I've got a problem. You've seen me a few like fights on social media where I'm like, dude, why did I do that? So I'm trying to work that into my week where I need some time away. So it's interesting from your perspective to hear that you also feel it's kind of a net negative. And where do your friends hang out, right? So like if the relationships online are kind of superficial, like especially since we just got out of COVID and quarantine and whatnot, how do 19-year-olds commune now? Like, obviously I don't think you're going to the mall and seeing movies like I did when I was a teenager, but
well, honestly for me, dude, I've been going to like indie rock shows, and that's like kind of people, I guess you can say my age, from people my age to maybe like 25 or something like that. So it's like people my age, like I guess that crowd of people. I guess we're going to music shows, but yeah, there's not like, I guess everyone's really like, even in high school, like my high school experience was kind of like everyone had their little cliques, and maybe it's always been this way, but it was like everyone's in their own little cliques, and that's just kind of how everyone was. Everyone was just in their little circle. So I guess like, I don't know, when we hang out, like for example, when I hang out with my friends, it's more of like, oh, let's go here and then like, I guess hang out. But honestly, I don't really have that many friends, to be honest. I don't have that many friends. Like my friends are like people that I train with all the time.
Yeah. I mean, you're hanging out with me doing a podcast, so you clearly have no friends.
I have no friends, dude.
But how much has that mattered to you, right? Because you mentioned that like, I'm kind of like skirting myself away from these people, and no judgment, love them, they're good people, but like I just don't want to be tempted around people that are smoking weed all day, and maybe I'm biasing a little bit more to like people that are training and are athletic and whatnot. So are you consciously trying to upgrade that circle of friends, and no hate over the people that you used to know or hang out with, but like, are you consciously trying to be like, hey, this is where I'm going and this is what I want to do?
Yeah, definitely, dude. Like for example, with you, dude, one thing that really, really like what I was drawn to was just like, well, I mean, I know you're in business, like you got we're here in your fucking $1,000 studio. Like it's like people that
I wish it was $1,000.
I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. Thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But for example, like that, like that's something so out of my normal network or whatever. Nobody from my high school would have something like this. And again, nothing against anyone else, but
yeah, I've got a 20-year head start. So
yeah, when I look at my future, when I look at me in 5 years, it's like I want to have certain things that, for example, people like you have. I want to have, a fucking upgraded studio. I want to have my own place. I want to train and buy a whole fucking year of private lessons so I can get my own class going. Just something like little luxuries that people, I guess, that have a head start, you can say.
Yeah.
It's just learning from them. Like I said, the year of learning is just trying to just like read the room and see what I can pick up from people.
Yeah, I think you're onto something really important that I probably didn't learn until much later in life than I wish I would have. Like, in my 20s, I got caught into that, like keeping up with the Joneses, working at a bank, wearing a suit, driving a Corvette when the market was about to crash and I couldn't afford a Corvette. And the older I got, the more I realized, like, man, all this stuff, like I was the guy that like a new pair of Nikes would come out and I'd buy them in like 5 different colors. All this stuff really at the end of the day doesn't matter. And if I could go back in time, I don't have like a bunch of regrets, but if I could go back in time, one of the things I would do is I would spend an overwhelming amount of my money on experiences or conveniences, not stuff. Like, I think of all the money I wasted on shoes or watches or cars or whatever. And it's like, I could still be driving the same like Mustang that I was driving when I was 23 and I would love it and it would be fun. And the 17 cars I owned in between probably just, put a big damper in my net worth. So like if I could go back in time, invest a little bit more, invest a little bit smarter. And then the money that I do spend, just like experiences, conveniences, like you said, getting private training or whatever, instead of like stuff. Cause we don't need any more shit.
Yeah, dude.
Americans have so much shit, myself included.
I think one thing that's really like minimalism, like it really resonates with me. Just not having like just have shit, doesn't have clutter. Like have your room full of like 1,000 shirts, but it's like, dude, you only really need 5 if you really got down to it. Like for example, the perspective I get from Mexico when going to Mexico, it's like I'll go and give I'll go. My mom's so big on giving us a fucking big ass suitcase to go and like distribute clothes to her aunts and like sisters and kids, whatever. And it's so cool to see, like, dude, like people, like I have 5 of these, I have like 100 of these laying around, and these kids are gonna like value the fuck out of these shirts for the next 2-3 years, And it's just, we get caught up with wanting more. The new fucking iPhone comes out. We gotta get the new iPhone. We gotta get this new, I don't know, whatever it is that keeps us kind of wanting shit and grabbing shit and keep collecting a whole bunch of junk,
Yeah.
So minimalism has definitely been something that's like resonated with me and helped me kind of just like be more intentional with what I buy, what I'm using, like what really fuels me, what I need to make my life like complete. And it's not much, it's really not much. And growing up the way we grew up, like we didn't have that much. So it's always been a normal thing to not have to amount to stuff,
Yeah. Were you born here, first generation, parents born here?
Yeah, I was born here. I was born at Kaiser over there in Panorama.
Oh, nice.
So my parents are from a town called Ahuizculco, Jalisco. That's like an hour and a half away from Guadalajara.
Okay.
It's like a really small fucking town. Maybe, I don't know how much like the population wise, but I'm for sure maybe I don't know. That's it'd be a really big guess, but yeah, it's a small town. And yeah, dude, we just kind of grew up like with what we needed, and if they were able to give us what we wanted or what we asked for, like they gave us to it. But if it wasn't, it was just like
no big deal, right?
Yeah, I didn't even know we were poor. That's how good it was. It was
right.
Just like shit. So like we have everything that you don't even realize that you're poor at the time, and you start growing up and they tell you, dude, like when Christmas time came around, dude, we were like scratching our heads, like fuck, like what are we gonna do? And like every kid wants something for Christmas,
Of course.
So it was like, it's crazy to now look back at that and look how far we've came and just know that like, yeah, dude, like it's crazy. I didn't even know I was poor, but right. Now it's like, dude, yeah, the way we grew up, like, wow, we just didn't know. You just didn't know.
Yeah, I think about that a lot. My parents were probably like, middle class, they had good jobs. They worked their ass off. They had health insurance. Like we never owned a home when I was a kid, but it's not like we were ever starving or whatnot. And they paid for Boy Scouts and I was able to do like roller hockey and stuff. So I had a pretty awesome childhood. Other than the fact that extended family was all kinds of drama. But, I think a lot about that, about how much my parents sacrificed in order to make sure my sister and I had like the best childhood they could give us. Like every parent, they screwed up many ways that, I don't fault them for it. But yeah, you kind of just don't know in the moment. Like I remember I had some really wealthy friends in Boy Scouts who it was like, I'll never forget this one guy. He was like a financial planner. And I thought it was like, wait a minute, you bought a car all cash? cash. Like you just wrote a check for the car. Like you didn't have to finance it or have monthly payments. I was so fucking confused. I was like, that's a thing? Like you can just buy like I think it was like some fancy van, and we were so excited because it was like one of the first vans that had like TVs. So when we went on the trips, I was like, oh, this is so cool. And he was like, yeah, and he wasn't bragging. He was just like, yeah, I picked it up, got a good deal on it, da da da. And I think for some reason, I don't know why, for some reason, maybe I was doing like the finance merit badge. I'm like, oh, well, what was your APR? And he's like, no, I just bought it. And I'm like, yeah, but like, what was your interest rate? Because I was like following the finance merit badge, learning about interest rates and credit cards or whatever. And he's like, no, I just bought it with cash. It's mine. And I'm like, what the fuck? That's a thing? I was so confused. And so, now that I own my car free and clear, it's like a big like thing for me. It's like, yeah, I don't have a $600 a month car payment, and I'm happy about that. But it's weird, these little things that stick in our mind. I want to go back to the podcast real quick, because I think the me versus myself is such an interesting concept. Do you have a couple episodes recently that you'd be comfortable sharing? Well, I guess it's on YouTube. You have to be comfortable sharing a few things that you've like talked about, because you mentioned depression, but I don't find you as a particularly depressive guy. And you mentioned weed, but you seem to have that under control. Like, what are some of the topics you talk about on that show? Because I know some of them are hour and a half long. That's a long time to talk to yourself.
So recently what I've been doing, like it's added like a good 30 minutes. It's always been about like 40 to an hour. But I started asking people like on my Instagram, like, hey, what are some things that you might be bothering you? What's something that I don't know, just I guess like little questions to get people to like open up a little bit and be vulnerable, because that's like the main thing with like what I'd like people to take from it is just that to be vulnerable, like it's okay to be vulnerable, and to like it's like me exposing myself and me going on for an hour and expressing and talking about my demons and things that bother me and things that I might be dealing with. It's fucking, oh shit, today I wanted to get this done and I didn't get it done, and I'm running away from these kinds of things. So definitely just being vulnerable, because I think that's where a lot opens up for you when you're vulnerable when you allow yourself to be vulnerable and just drop your ego. You kind of there's just so much room for growth, because again, like you don't get caught up in your own ways, and that's like the main thing I want people to take from that is just to be vulnerable and to like share something about themselves. So people, like I say, for example, hey, what's something you might be dealing with? And it's like, oh, like I'm dealing with trying to think of something recently somebody told me, but for example, I don't know, I guess it could just be anything, like, oh, I'm struggling with like lack of motivation, or I want to lose weight. And people have seen from where I've came from, I've dropped like 30 pounds since I started training, and did like 2 years, like out of high school I was like 170, almost like 178, almost like I was big, and that's just weed, and everything else that comes with it. But like 178 ish, and now I'm like 147. And it's crazy.
You're getting shredded, dude.
It's crazy to see where like how far you come back, so people see that stuff, and like people know like, oh fuck, like, they remember where I was and where I'm at now. And I guess that's kind of gives me like I don't know how to say like I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is like when you have experience, people like are more bound to like listen to you.
Yeah.
So yeah, people will be like, hey, like I want to lose like weight, for example, and I'll give my hot take on it. Like, hey, like, okay, like, well, like, I mean, ideally you got to start working out. It's really simple, but at the end of the day, like people make it so super complicated. And I mean, it's hard, it's really hard, but yeah, just having people open up and like, hey, like, how do I deal with not being like jealous, or how do I deal with not being like insecure? And I'll just go up on it. Honestly, just got to not give a fuck. Like way it is like, it is like whatever you're doing for yourself it's going to be for you, whether someone likes it, whether someone thinks you're attractive, whether someone thinks you're fucking ugly or you're whatever, like you're the only one that has to live with that at the end of the day. So it's about how you react to those things and those feelings, and just, for example, just not comparing yourself, because I think that's one of the negatives from social media too. Like
I was just going to say, how hard is it to go be vulnerable when everybody is curating this perfect profile, and this is the perfect picture with my girlfriend or my spouse, and this is
perfect caption.
Yeah, it's
dude.
like, I mean, I was, where was I? We were in Cancun for a coaching event, and as the sun was coming down, it was this really weird thing where the kiddie pool was, which was like 18 inches deep. It was really cool because it was like an elevated platform, looked out to the beach. So when the sun came down, I was there with my 5-year-old. all the girls that you had not seen all day immediately come down, hair done up, bikini. I mean, some very attractive girls. My wife caught me looking a couple times because I was there to watch my kids in the kiddie pool. But they're there, you know, like strutting and taking pictures. And they were there literally for the half hour when the sun's setting where they get the best picture. And then they were back to the hotel room. And I'm like, I didn't see these women at breakfast. I didn't see them walking around the resort. I didn't see them having fun with their boyfriends. I didn't see them at night, like out doing, like it's almost like they were literally just there for that half hour window to take a perfect Instagram bikini shot and then, you know, go curate everything online. So, you know, going back to my original question, when that's the norm for a lot of society right now, how hard is it to be vulnerable in the podcast or just in your social media?
I think it comes really natural to me, but I do, like, for example, like, since that's the norm, it's like that's me trying to, like, I guess be a bump in the road, you know, where it's like, dude, like, all that shit's bullshit, you know, just fucking be you. And like, when you really own who you are and when you own what you're passionate about, it's like, dude, there's so much good that comes from it, rather than like building up this fake persona, waiting for the fucking perfect sunset, the perfect angle, and like perfect Drake lyrics to go with your caption, you know, like,
right.
And I mean, it's funny because that's just kind of like the norm, but it's like, bro, that shit doesn't matter. And it's just like me, I guess it's like I'm taking the sacrifice to like be vulnerable to hopefully get other people to break out of that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we need more Instagram photos that aren't doctored with 75 filters. I mean, I think about it. You know, you've been at the family classes where my kids are. I think about my 3-year-old daughter. I'm like, dude, what fucking chance is she gonna have when it's like everything is perfectly curated and there's this like image of beauty that's like totally unattainable? Because you know, some of those girls were attractive, definitely. They were maybe like a 7 or an 8, but I guarantee you, by the time they were done with the touch-ups and the filters and whatnot, I mean, it looked like a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. And it's like, that's just, you know, that's not attainable in everyday life. And it took them all day to prep for that. And I'm like, oh man, my poor daughter, where it's like, if you're a guy and you're fat, you just have to go make more money.
Is that the secret?
That's a secret. I have a buddy who always says this. He's like, for every 10 pounds that a guy gains, he just has to add a 0 to his bank account, and people will forgive him. But it's totally unfair. It sucks. What else is going on, like, in the, like, what are your friends talking about in either the social realm or pop culture or politics? Like, when you get together with your friends, like, what's on the mind of your 19 to 25-year-old that's at the music show?
Oh. Yeah, everyone's just there to have a fucking good time, dude. That's what, like, the most recent thing I did, where I had a booth there at one of my friend's shows. She has like vendors that come sell their art. They sell like shirts and stuff. And I was like, can I get a booth for me? And then she's like, yeah. So I had a little table, I had a mic set up, I had the ring light set up, and I was just going on, like, having people just come here and just talk. And I'd be like, for example, a question would be like, what's your favorite thing about you? Would be like, oh, I really like how genuine I am. I really like how artistic I am. I really like how I'm willing to, you know, give for people and do so much good for blah, 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 blah. So at the shows, bro, I think everyone's just there to have a really good time. And it's like a really open space to just exist, you know? And I think that's how, like, it should be. No, I don't think there needs to be political debates amongst me and my friends, you know?
Right.
Because it's like, bro, I don't have anything to gain from proving this is real or this is fake or this is like a conspiracy. This is not like, I mean, I have my own beliefs, you know, but it's like, why am I going to go out there and put those shits out there just because, I guess, to feel right, I guess. I don't know. Like, it just, I don't know. People are caught up with like being this perfect, you know, like this perfect image, and like, I support this and I support that. And oh my gosh, you don't support this, like, you're a fucking terrible person.
You're out. Yeah,
you're canceled or whatever. Like, it's like none of that shit fucking matters. And I guess, like, at those shows, the people that I've been meeting, it's just been open-minded souls and open-minded people that are just willing to, like, give and just, we're just here for a good time, you know? Yeah. But like, I guess, like, I could, like, it's hard for me to tell you, like, what I talk about with my friend group, because, like I said, I don't have friends like that. Right. Like, there's the thing with me, like, I guess my friend group is like my cousins, because there's like I want to say so. So from my grandma's side, there's 11 uncles and aunts in between that. So it's 11 of like them. And there's maybe like 20 of us cousins that have grown up together, like, huge. Always. Yeah. So there's a good like 7 to 8 of us. They're all around the same age. They hang out, like the friends. I mean the cousins. I say friends, but basically friends. Yeah. That I went to hang out with yesterday. those are kind of like my people, you know. Like I have friends that I have from like school, friends that I have that I would smoke weed with.
Right.
But yeah, they like ultimately like my cousins and stuff, we're all really like-minded. So it's kind of like us trying to always constantly improve and constantly trying to share ideas and kind of just help each other out, help each other grow.
Yeah, I think that's so big in the Hispanic community, if I can overgeneralize and stereotype. But I remember the first wedding I went to with my wife on her side of the family when we were dating. I think there was 61 first cousins. Because same thing, her mom's side of the family is like, you know, one of 12 brothers and sisters. And then on her dad's side, there's like 5 brothers and sisters. And then all of them had kids. And some of them had some other kids. So there was like, you know, it was like 61 cousins. I was like, my head was spinning. I have like 2. I have 2 cousins.
Yeah.
And so it was crazy. But, you know, what's interesting is like, you know, fast forward 8 years, we've been together now. When we go to a party, it's just like her closest friends are her cousins, and they catch up and they're connected in a way that like I'll never be connected to any of my friends because we didn't grow up and have sleepovers at 5 years old. You know,
one thing we would do would play like capture the flag. Like we would do like cops and robbers games, and like since it was always a big crowd and we'd always have like big parties, like so the thing is like like I said, my parents are from the same town, so a lot of people from that town are still like involved. It's like a little community that's like it's like a little bubble in here, you know, that like for example they would have a party, so this person would come, and then like it would just be a big gathering. It'd always be big gatherings, so it'd be like cousins, second cousins like would come. Fucking a group of like 20 people playing capture the flag, tag, and like I mean the street that, you know, it was just like a really cool time, a really fun time that bonded us in like a really unique way because we all grew up together, and now we all kind of went into the world. We went through our high school, went through our own little experiences, but at the end of the day, it's like we're still like connected. We're still boys, you know, we're still doing our thing. We're still like really, really connected in this like really unique way that like with friends, I guess for me, like I've never really had that, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's never gonna be the same.
Yeah, I've never had people that I can like, I feel less comfortable with like them. And I don't know where that comes from, bro. I don't know if like what stems from that. More recently, I've been a lot more open just from learning how to communicate, learning how to connect with people more. And the podcast has helped me tremendously, like be able to just express myself. But yeah, up to like in high school, and like I'd have friends and I'd be a part of friend groups, but it was always really hard for me to like open up. So like I'd give up like a lot on like, it would be like a lot of it was on the surface, but there was so much that like a lot of people didn't ever like get to ask or touch on, or me just would never really tell people, you know. I would just gave up like up to like this point there was a front, and like not a lot of people really figured out like who I was, for example, you can say. And it wasn't until recently where it's like I want to share me, I want to like I own all of it now, you know, man. I guess back then maybe it was insecurities, I don't know what it was. But yeah, like even like
now you can beat them up, so it feels probably easier.
And I can break limbs or choke them out or whatever.
It's interesting when you mentioned about your cousins or, you know, your friend group that have either, you know, you guys have kind of passed each other by or whatnot. I'm interested, people around your age, what percentage do you think are like going down that traditional, I've got to go to college for 4 years because, you know, my high school counselor told me I had to, my parents told me I had, versus like they're kind of just out trying different jobs, trying to find themselves, trying to find what they're passionate about? Like what percentage of people do you think is like going your route versus going the like, I got to get the degree to make my mom happy?
Dude, there's a lot of people still stuck in, percentage wise, dude. I want to say maybe like 60-40. I think that's a good, it's not 50-50 for sure. It's not. I think 60-40 where there's people that maybe don't know that they know that they want to get a degree and like they know that that's the way out, but some people don't even know what they're majoring in, you know. They continue to switch majors because they don't know what they want, they don't know what it is, or they kind of reach a dead end and it's like, dude, I don't want to do this. And especially with like Zoom school, I saw a lot of people that I went to high school with like suffer through that, you know. And like I mean I got out of that before any of that happened, you know, but I can only imagine like how hard that was to like stay motivated and like really at the end of the day like continue to like grind at that degree that I guess people think they want or I guess need, you know. Some people might actually need it, but I guess like for example, if you're not going to be a doctor or anything like that, like I don't think you really need it.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe that's like an ignorant thing to say because I just wanted out, you know.
Right.
I wanted nothing to do with it, so maybe I'm stupid, and you know, for all it is, I am. But yeah, a lot of people are just scared to take that leap because, well, I mean, once you once you like get out of that, for example, it's like, well, that little structure you had is like gone, you know, that's that school structure. That's one of the things that I struggled with after I dropped out. It was like, okay, like now what? Like I have all this fucking free time now, and yeah, like I'm free, but it's like, okay, where do I want to put my time, and where do I want to be doing, and what do I want to be doing, you know? So that's where the year of learning comes in. That's where like me reading and learning for my own sake, you know, comes in. But yeah, I think that leap, a lot of people are like on, like they really want to take that and really want to like just like jump off the deep end, but are scared because like, well, you're giving up like you're giving up security at the end of the day, you know?
Right.
Like that was one thing. They have a journal entry that I wrote in like in one of my journals, like the second day of school, college. I was like, dude, I know like this is cool that I'm in college and stuff and I'm learning stuff, but I was like, I know that this 2-3 years of, you know, turning in assignments and meeting certain deadlines and meeting certain qualifications to get a degree, like knowing that if I meet those qualifications, I'll get a degree, it's going to make me waste time. That's like one of the things I wrote in to myself. And I think it's like true, you know, it's like, yeah, you can go ahead and you're going to get like a prestigious like degree or whatever. But I mean, anyone who feels those anyone who cooperates with those qualifications, like is going to get the degree, you know? And I think, I don't know, like diving into what you want, there's so much in there, you know, there's so much in there that maybe it might not come as fast. It might not be as secure because it's not secure, but dude, like fuck it, you know, I think you just got to say fuck it sometimes and really go at it. And I just see what you're capable of.
Yeah, I'm really interested in this new Google certification program where they've got like, you know, trainings and different things, whether it's coding or graphics, or I haven't looked at the whole list of criterion certifications. But even Google's saying like, oh yeah, if you want to work for us, you don't necessarily have to have a degree. You just need to take these certifications and like show proficiency. So if Google is getting a little away from like, hey, that 4-year traditional, you know, liberal arts or find yourself college degree, maybe we don't need that to find like good engineers and good project managers. Like take this course and like it will kind of evaluate your aptitude and get through the certificate, and we'll look at you objectively when you compete against people with a degree. So once I saw that, I was like, oh, this might be the beginning of the end for higher education, unless, like you said, you're going to be a doctor. You need some very precise technical skill. Obviously, I want our engineers to like still go get a degree. You know, I don't want buildings falling down. I want to trust the doctor I'm going to go see. But, you know, a 4-year liberal arts degree in, you know, Chicano lesbian studies or something. I don't know, you know, if you want to pay for it and go do that, great. By all means, go find yourself and get that. But the idea that that's going to lead to some fruitful employment, I just don't know if that's the case anymore.
Yeah, the people, like there's people that like I know that have the degrees but don't even work in their what they got the degree for, you know? So it's like, dude, I mean, like there's no harm in going and taking those 4 years and learning. Because at the end of the day, bro, like I still technically have, I say 2 more years to get my shit figured out. But in reality, in 2 years, when people I graduated with get their 4 years, like they're starting from zero technically too, you know? So it's like, I'm not behind. And I think that's like one thing that people might hold people back. They might feel behind. And again, social media, like the societal pressure, what your parents believe or what they tell you is the right thing to do. It really is like, you know, it kind of lingers in your mind. But dude, I think sometimes you just got to say fuck it and just go off the cuff a little bit and figure it out.
Yeah, I think about that, you know, there's that saying that comes up a lot where it's like people really overestimate what they can do in a year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And it's like, to your point, 2 years from now, when your friends that did all the right things, and let's be honest, it's probably going to be 3 years from now because it's taken people 5 years to graduate college. You know, 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to be like a purple belt in jiu-jitsu and have several hundred podcasts under your belt. And you're going to be, you know, you're going to be making some money on the marketing firm that you're building. And it's like, and you're going to have this 4 years of exploration and hanging out with older people and like really exploring what it is you want to do. For me, if I was an employer and you decided like, hey, cool, I want to go get a real job, quote unquote, I would look at those things on your resume. And I think I would look at those a little bit more highly than like somebody that just checked the box and like went to Cal State LA and got the 4-year degree, which, you know, again, nothing wrong with that. I'm trying not to judge, even though I'm sounding very judgy during this episode. We
sound like we're hating, but
we sound like we're hating big time in this episode. But you know, I just think there's something to that non-traditional path.
Yeah, so. There's definitely like other routes, dude. it's not until you start. I guess I say I'm paving my own path, which is true, because like dude, what I'm following, it's not conventional. There's no, I mean, I have a plan, I know where I'm going, but it's not laid out anywhere. I'm the one that's like laying the bricks and the foundation that once I get to wherever I'm going to get to, like I'll look back and the path is set, for people to, hey, like this guy did it this way, like fuck it, like let me just follow what he's done.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like I try to like share that internal struggle of me versus myself, because there is days where I don't want to train or I'm fucking exhausted from training. I just did 2-3 classes, and it's like, dude, my body's just, I'm done, I feel done.
Right.
But I know that just keep going, you gotta that's part of it, it's all part of the journey. And I think it's okay to just not follow the path for a little bit, because I mean, I could go back to school if I really wanted to. And now I have 2 years of exploration, and I mean, there's not like, I'm not against college, but I guess for what I wanted or what I had seen, it's like, I just wanted to just live on my own terms.
Yeah. Yeah, two questions I always like to ask at the end of every episode. One, especially now that we're mask mandates over, looks like we're out of the woods on COVID. Yes. The first question is like, what's something you're looking forward to getting back to? And then the other question is just simply like, what did I forget to ask you? Like, what did you come in here like, oh, I meant to talk about this, or I wanted him to ask me this question. So just those two things, like, what are you looking forward to? And like, what's the question you wish I would have asked?
So definitely like a live concert. So I'm gonna go see 2 artists in November.
Nice.
I'm gonna go see Tame Impala, and there's an artist called Chicano Batman. It's like a group of like indie like rock kind of stuff, and then this band called Crumb is gonna be there. Other band called Los Retros is gonna be there. I'm excited for live shows, but honestly, bro, it's kind of selfish to say this, but my life didn't really change because of COVID. Like I was still training in the gym.
Yeah.
Like thankfully our gym was open, and like we still trained, we still like did our thing. And I think I'm just looking forward to going out into the world as this like new me, like after this year of like really working hard, of like training, of losing fucking 20-30 pounds or whatever it's been. Like I'm really excited to just keep sharing this, and like these little like glimpses that I've had, experiences where like I've gone to these recent shows, it's shown me how fucking abundant everything really is now, that like I now carry myself as this new me. I carry myself as this person that knows where I came from a year ago, to look back now and to see like even like just where I was a year ago to now. It's crazy. And so yeah, definitely like looking like going back to concerts and just carrying myself continuously as this new me, as this person that is Jesus. It's just who I am now. And with jiu-jitsu, with all those things that I've added to myself, like it just makes me that much more confident in who I am.
Awesome. And what about the question I forgot to ask?
Question you forgot to ask. Dang, that's kind of weird. I had an idea, I guess, of how it was gonna go. Thankfully, I was able to sit through this like that last time when I watched Ty's interview. But no, I think we pretty much covered everything, because I did want to talk about the 100-day thing and all that, the little struggle that I've been, not struggle, but that little chapter, that little arc, this character arc.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, honestly, I think we covered a lot of I guess the main things.
Cool, man. Well, when you get done with the 100 days, we'll have you back when you do another 200 days or something like that.
That's next year, I think.
And see if you just see if you kick it all the way. Like after 100 days, it's easy to stop forever. I don't know, unless you're ending on your birthday again. That's always a bad decision.
It's actually dude, that's where it's like weird, because like I know that I did enjoy it, and I know like it's not like I wouldn't enjoy it if I did start again. But I don't know, dude. I just don't. I think the daily usage was like the main issue.
Yeah.
Like just the constant like just making it a habit and attaching it to things that I was enjoying to do. That it kind of became hand in hand to do these things I enjoy and also smoke. But now it's like I don't know. Like I still enjoy what I'm doing, but there is that. I guess it's just that little demon that might always be there. That's just what addiction is or whatever.
Yeah,
it's always there. But I don't know. Maybe we will partake. Who knows?
We'll talk in 100 days.
Yeah,
man.
We're still young. So I guess like there's time and there's room for me to go ahead and fuck up and go back. But I don't know. We feel good. I feel good right now.
Cool, man. Well, we'll talk soon, dude. And thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. This is so cool, dude. This is so official. Like compared to my little setup, it's so like.
Well, you can borrow the little traveling studio next time you do an interview show because we got a couple mics there and stuff.
Dude, please, dude.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on fucking Joe Rogan right now with the fucking mic and the headphones. This is so cool. Thank you, Scott.
All right, man. Talk soon.
Thank you.